It was one of those dinners that pretends it's relaxed. Food passed hand to hand, the same stories told in the same order, laughter arriving a beat late like it had been scheduled. I sat where I always sat, angled just enough to keep an eye on my daughter without making it obvious. She was focused on cutting her chicken into squares, a task she approached with ceremony. She liked things orderly, predictable. My dad leaned back in his chair and said it like a footnote, like something he didn't need to own. "Your kid's not really ours." He didn't raise his voice, he didn't look at her. He said it to the table, to the air, to whatever invisible audience he imagined would understand. My daughter's hands froze over her plate. It was immediate and precise. The fork paused midair, the knife angled just wrong. She didn't look up, she didn't cry, she simply stopped, as if the room had shifted a few degrees and she was waiting for it to settle back. No one corrected him. That was the part that hurt most, if I'm honest. Not the sentence itself. I'd heard versions of it before, in jokes that weren't jokes, in questions about resemblance, in the way gifts were chosen with less care. What hurt was the silence that followed, the way it laid itself across the table and stayed. I felt my body prepare to do what it had always done, smooth it over, redirect, make it smaller so we could all keep eating. I opened my mouth and closed it again. My husband didn't hesitate. He looked around the table first, not theatrically, just enough to see who was present, who was watching, who had decided to stay quiet. Then he said one sentence, "Then we'll stop asking you to pretend." That was it. No accusation, no volume, just a line drawn so cleanly it felt like a correction to reality. My sister's wineglass slipped from her hand and shattered against the tile. The sound was sharp and bright, a punctuation mark no one could ignore. She stared at the spill if it had surprised her, as if she hadn't known gravity still applied. Dinner didn't end with a fight, it just failed. Plates sat half-finished, someone stood up and didn't know where to go. My dad muttered something about jokes and sensitivity, but his words didn't land anywhere useful. My daughter finally looked up at me then, her eyes searching, asking a question she didn't have language for yet. I reached over and covered her hands with mine. "You're okay," I said. "We're going home." On the drive back, she asked if she had done something wrong. I told her no. She asked if Grandpa was mad at her. I told her no again, even though I wasn't sure what my dad felt, only that whatever it wasn't hers to carry. That night, the group chat lit up like a flare. First came confusion, what just happened, then defense, he didn't mean it like that, then offense, you embarrassed him. The messages stacked, overlapping, contradicting each other in real time. I didn't respond. Somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m., a new tone emerged. People started asking questions they'd never asked before, about paperwork, about names they had apparently assumed had ended differently. That's when I realized this wasn't just about belonging. It was about a secret that had been doing quiet work for years. By morning, my dad had left 3 voicemails. The first was angry. The second was confused. The third was different. "I didn't think it would matter," he said, voice thin, careful. "I didn't think she'd hear." He didn't apologize for the belief, only for its exposure. When I finally called him back, he talked quickly, as if speed might undo what had been said. He asked what we wanted. He asked how to fix it. He asked if we could just move on. I listened. Then I told him we were done pretending. We wouldn't attend dinners where our daughter's place was conditional. We wouldn't accept explanations that arrived only when consequences did. We wouldn't participate in a version of family that required silence from us to remain comfortable for others. He begged then, really begged, not for forgiveness, for access, for holidays, for the version of himself that hadn't yet been challenged. I told him we'd talk later. Maybe. I didn't promise anything. Weeks passed. The group chat went quiet, then resumed in a more cautious key.
My sister sent a long message that tried to apologize without naming what she was apologizing for. I didn't answer that either. At home, my daughter returned to her routines. She asked fewer questions. She drew more pictures. One afternoon, she taped a family portrait to the fridge that included us, our dog, and a son that took up most of the page. No grandparents, no cousins, just who felt safe. I kept that drawing longer than the others. Trust doesn't break all at once. It fractures along lines that were already there. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt recalibrated, like something heavy I'd been holding without realizing it had finally been set down. My dad still calls less often now. When he does, he chooses his words carefully, as if language itself has become a liability. Maybe it has. What I know is this: my daughter eats without freezing now. She laughs without checking the room. And whatever our family becomes from here, it won't be built on silence. That's not victory. It's just the ground we stand on now.